We have a magical bedtime story tonight. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before your eyes get heavy, go ahead and like the video, and subscribe to the channel. And while you're still here, where in the world are you listening from? What time is it where you are? Now lie back. Let your blanket wrap around you like an invisibility cloak. And listen closely, because these are no ordinary tales. What you'll hear tonight are the secret thoughts of Harry Potter himself, kept safe within the quiet pages of his diary. Moments never read aloud before. Not from the newspapers. Not from textbooks. But from beneath his pillow. From the soft space between dreams and danger. Each year, written in his own words. Every fear. Every friendship. Every flicker of magic before the spell was cast. We'll begin with year 1, the boy in the cupboard and the letter that found him. We'll pass through year 2, whispers in the walls, and a door that should never have opened. And we'll end in year 3, where shadows wore hoods, and Harry met the truth about his past, and the stag that lives inside him. So close your eyes if you'd like. Let the castle find you. And if this story stays with you, if the magic hums gently in your dreams, then we'll return again, for year 4, the fire and the maze. But for now, let's begin. July 31st, somewhere, very late. I'm writing this by the light of the fire. It's still raining outside. The sea won't shut up. The wind keeps pushing against the walls like it wants in. It's my birthday. Well, I think it is. The clock's just past midnight. Technically. I didn't tell anyone. I mean, who would I tell? The Dursleys are asleep in the next room. Uncle Vernon snoring like his soaring logs. Dudley's curled on the couch with his new rifle still clutched to his chest. He got a present. I got the floor. I don't know why I'm writing this. No one's going to read it. But I can't sleep. My thoughts won't stop pacing. So many things. The letters. The owl. That hut on the rock. And now, the knock on the door. It wasn't a normal knock. It shook the entire place. Like someone dropped a boulder against the wood. I thought maybe the storm had gotten worse, but then I heard it again. And again. Until Uncle Vernon grabbed the rifle. And then the door just flew off. There was a man standing there. Huge. Bigger than anyone I've ever seen. His shoulders brushed the sides of the frame. Hair like a storm cloud and eyes almost kind. But wild. Not dangerous exactly, just untamed. Like he belonged somewhere the rest of us don't. He said my name. Harry. Harry Potter. I didn't say anything. I think my mouth stopped working. He handed me a birthday cake. And then he told me everything I wasn't allowed to know. That I'm a wizard. That my parents weren't killed in a car crash. That someone named Voldemort tried to kill me when I was a baby, and couldn't. He said I'm famous. But I'm just me. I wear Dudley's old clothes and sleep in a cupboard and try not to make noise when I walk. I don't feel famous. He said I'm going to a school called Hogwarts. A school for magic. A real place. For people like me. I didn't know there were people like me. The man, Hagrid, that's his name, he got angry at the Dursleys. Especially when he found out they'd never told me anything. Aunt Petunia said my mum was a freak. I think Hagrid nearly turned Uncle Vernon into a toad. He even gave Dudley a tail. A real one. Curled like a pig's. It's quiet now. I'm still not sure it's real. But there's cake on the table. And a letter with my name on it in my lap. And I'm writing by firelight in a hut on a rock in the sea. And someone came for me. Someone said I mattered. That's enough for tonight. I'm going to try to sleep. But I don't think I'll ever feel quite the same again. August 1st, back in London. I think. I woke up to seagulls and the sound of bacon hitting a pan. For a minute, I forgot where I was. I thought maybe I dreamed it all, the storm, the letters, the giant, but when I opened my eyes, Hagrid was humming. He'd taken Dudley's coat and wrapped it around himself like a blanket. It still had bullets in the pocket. I don't know what kind of person cooks bacon in a storm on a stove made from scrap metal and patience, but that's Hagrid. We left the hut after breakfast. Took a boat back to shore. He rowed us through the mist like it was nothing, even though the boat was too small for him and the waves tried to pull us sideways the whole way. He said we were going to get me sorted. I didn't know what that meant. But I didn't ask. I think I was still afraid if I asked too many questions, I'd wake up in the cupboard again. Turns out getting sorted meant buying school supplies. For a wizard school. And not from just anywhere. We went to London. Then to a small, grubby pub hidden between a bookstore and a record shop, the Leaky Cauldron. It's like it didn't exist until Hagrid touched the door. Inside, everyone seemed to know me. They kept whispering. Pointing. One man kissed my hand. A witch called me the boy who lived. I didn't know what to say. I just kept nodding. Smiling. I've never been stared at for something good before. Then Hagrid took me through a brick wall. Literally. He tapped the bricks with his pink umbrella and they folded away like a puzzle solving itself. Behind it was a street I couldn't believe was real, Diagon Alley. Shops selling cauldrons, spellbooks, broomsticks, owls. Everything shimmered, floated, whistled, smoked. There was a potion bubbling in the street window and a goblin counting gold behind a velvet rope. I just stared. I didn't even know where to look. We went to the bank first, Gringotts. Goblins run it. Their fingers are long, and their eyes are sharp, but they don't miss anything. One of them took us deep underground in a cart that went faster than it had any right to. There was a dragon, I swear. Just a glimpse. But it was there. The goblin unlocked a vault with my name on it. Inside, gold. Stacks of it. My parents had left it for me. I'd never had money before. Not my own. I didn't know what to feel. Hagrid also stopped at another vault. Vault 713. He wouldn't tell me what was inside, but he tucked a small package into his coat like it was made of glass. After that, we bought everything. Robes from Madame Malkin's. A telescope. A pewter cauldron. Books with titles like Magical Theory and 1000 Magical Herbs and Fungi. But the wand. That was different. The shop was small and dusty. Ollivanders. The air inside smelled like old paper and lightning. Mr. Ollivander measured my arms, my ears, the distance from my nose to my knee. He said the wand chooses the wizard. He gave me one. I waved it. Nothing. Then another. That one made a stack of boxes explode. Finally, he handed me a wand made of holly and phoenix feather. 11 inches. I held it. And everything felt still. Like the air sighed. Warmth rushed up my arm like fire without burn. Mr. Ollivander said it shared a core with Voldemort's wand. I didn't know what to say. My fingers tightened around the handle without meaning to. That was my wand. We had lunch after. I got my very first owl, a snowy one. I haven't named her yet. Hagrid said I could bring her to school. He gave me my train ticket too. Hogwarts. September 1st. Platform 9 3/4. I asked how to find it. He just winked. It's dark now. I'm back at the Dursleys, but only for one more month. They didn't say much when I walked through the door with an owl on my shoulder and a trunk full of magic. Uncle Vernon grunted. Aunt Petunia turned pale. Dudley ran to his room. I just smiled. For once, I had something they couldn't take. I'm counting the days. Something has changed in me. The cupboard feels smaller now. September 1st, first night at Hogwarts. I'm in a 4-poster bed. With curtains. Curtains. They're drawn around me now, and there's candlelight flickering against the red velvet, and I can hear someone, maybe Seamus, snoring lightly across the room. My trunk is at the foot of the bed. Hedwig's asleep in the owlery. And for the first time in my life, I think I might be safe. It feels strange. Today didn't feel real. It felt like stepping out of someone else's story and into mine. This morning started with confusion. The ticket Hagrid gave me said platform 9 3/4, but I had no idea what that meant. I was just wandering around the station like a ghost until I heard her. A kind woman with flaming red hair and a cart full of trunks said, packed with muggles, of course. She had boys, red-haired, loud, identical. Twins. And another boy, quieter. A bit nervous. That's how I met Ron. They showed me how to get to the platform. You walk straight through the barrier between platforms 9 and 10. You don't stop. You don't look around. You just go. I nearly chickened out. But I didn't. And then suddenly, I was standing in front of the Hogwarts Express. Steam. Red paint. Magic in the air like something humming just beneath your ribs. I shared a compartment with Ron. He had dirt on his nose, and his wand was chipped, and he offered me a sandwich without asking for anything. His family doesn't have much, but they've got each other. That was obvious straight away. He told me about Hogwarts. The houses. The ghosts. Quidditch. I told him I didn't know anything. And then he just shrugged. You'll learn. No judgment. No weird looks. Just a smile. That meant more than I think he knows. Then she came in. Hermione Granger. Bushy hair. Bright eyes. Said she'd read all our school books already, twice. She fixed Ron's spell. He was trying to turn his rat yellow, and corrected my pronunciation of Leviosa before I could even try saying it. She was intense. But kind. A bit like being caught in a very tidy storm. Neville came in later, looking for his toad. I liked him immediately. He's soft-spoken and gentle and a little unsure of everything, which is how I felt inside. Still feel, honestly. We pulled up to the castle after dark. Hagrid was waiting. Boats carried us across a black lake, the castle glowing above like a floating city. Reflections in the water. Stars overhead. It didn't feel like Earth. Inside, we were met by Professor McGonagall. Strict, but not cruel. She led us to the sorting. The hat talks. Not just out loud, in your head. It's alive, sort of. I don't know how to explain it. It wanted to put me in Slytherin. It said I had the traits. Ambition. Resourcefulness. A thirst to prove myself. But I told it, quietly, almost desperately, not Slytherin. So it placed me in Gryffindor. Where Ron went. And Hermione. And Neville. The Great Hall was like something out of a dream. Candles floating in the air. The ceiling enchanted to look like the sky outside. Food appearing like magic, because it is. Laughter echoing off the stone. Warmth. Not just from the fire, from the people. I've never had a feast like that. Or a family table. After, Dumbledore gave a speech. He's strange, in a good way. Said a few words, nitwit. Blubber. Oddment. Tweak. And then smiled like that made perfect sense. I liked him instantly. Now I'm here. Writing this by wandlight, half tucked under the covers. I don't know what kind of person I'll be here. But I know I don't have to pretend I'm normal anymore. Tomorrow, classes begin. Tonight, I have a bed with my name on it. September 5th, after lights out. There's something about the way Hogwarts breathes at night. The portraits sigh in their frames. The wind rattles high windows in the towers. The candles dim like they're falling asleep with us. Even the staircases stop shifting after midnight. I'm still getting used to all of it. Classes started a few days ago. It's strange. This is the first time I've ever wanted to wake up for school. I get to learn spells, potions, even how to fly on a broom. But it's more than that. For the first time, I feel like I belong somewhere. I'm not just the boy under the stairs anymore. Still, some things are harder than I expected. Like potions. Or more specifically, Professor Snape. He doesn't like me. I don't mean he's strict. I mean he really doesn't like me. He didn't even look at my cauldron. Just started asking me questions in front of everyone, fast and sharp like he wanted me to get them wrong. I didn't even understand what a 𝒍𝒆𝒆𝒑 was. He called me arrogant. Said I thought fame was enough. I wanted to tell him I didn't ask for any of this. I didn't ask to be famous, or to be known, or to survive something I don't even remember. I just wanted to learn. That's all. Ron tried to make me feel better after, but I could tell even he was confused. Hermione just frowned and started flipping through her notes like she could somehow fix it. And then there's the third-floor corridor. It's forbidden. Dumbledore said so on the first night, strictly off-limits to students. That would have been warning enough, but then we got curious. Malfoy tried to get us in trouble, challenged me to a duel. It was a trap, obviously. But Ron, Hermione, and Neville ended up sneaking out with me anyway. We were caught by Mrs. Norris, Filch's cat, and had to run. We hid behind a door. It should have led to a classroom or maybe a closet. Instead, we found a giant three-headed dog. Not a metaphor. A real one. Big as a car. Drool like oil. 3 heads. 3 pairs of eyes. It was standing on a trapdoor. Guarding it. We didn't stick around. We told ourselves we were imagining things. But I saw it. We all did. That dog is guarding something. Something important. Maybe even dangerous. I tried asking Hagrid about it when we visited his hut. He's not exactly subtle. When I mentioned the dog, he went red in the face and said, "That's Hogwarts business, that is." So now we know 2 things. The trapdoor is being guarded. Hagrid knows more than he's letting on. Something's going on here. I don't think I'm imagining it. There's a thread, and I can feel it pulling tight. Snape was limping the other day. He said he slipped on the stairs. But I saw him walking back from the 3rd-floor corridor. That dog bit someone. I think it might have been him. I don't know what it all means yet. But I'm going to find out. Tomorrow we have flying lessons. Ron's excited. Neville's terrified. Me? I've never even touched a broom. But I'm ready. Sleepy now. The castle's gone quiet again. Even my thoughts are starting to drift. September 8th, late, after curfew. There's a broomstick under my bed. I don't think I'll sleep much tonight. Every time I close my eyes, I can feel the wind in my hair again, the cold bite of it against my knuckles, the rush in my chest when the world dropped away and I didn't fall, I flew. But I should start from the beginning. Flying class. We had it today. With the Slytherins. Madam Hooch has short grey hair and eyes like hawk feathers. She made us stand beside our brooms, hold out our hands, and shout up. Mine jumped into my palm on the first try. Ron's rolled around like it was drunk. Then Neville happened. He kicked off too soon. Madam Hooch shouted for him to come down, but the broom didn't listen. It jerked up, hard and fast, like it wanted to throw him. And it did. He crashed. Broke his wrist. While Madam Hooch took him to the hospital wing, she told us not to move an inch. Draco, of course, didn't listen. He found Neville's Rememberall, the little glass ball that turns red when you've forgotten something, and started tossing it in the air like a toy. Then he mounted his broom. He wanted me to beg for it. I could see it in his eyes. Instead, I followed him. I didn't think. I just did it. I kicked off, and suddenly, I was above it all. The courtyard, the castle walls, the trees, everything spread out below like pieces of a giant game board. My heart was in my throat, but I wasn't scared. Not really. It felt natural. Like breathing. Like blinking. Like finally doing something I was always meant to do. Malfoy threw the Remembrall. It arced through the air like a falling star, and I dove. Hard. Fast. No thought, just instinct. Wind screaming past my ears. Arms out. Caught it inches from the ground. The world exploded in cheers, then silence. Professor McGonagall had seen the whole thing. She pulled me out of line and marched me through the halls. I thought I was being expelled. Honestly, I was ready. I didn't regret it. But instead, she took me to meet Oliver Wood, captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team. She told him she'd found their new seeker. That's how I found out I'd made the team. First year. Youngest seeker in a century. And I didn't even know what Quidditch was until yesterday. I think Ron was more excited than I was. He told everyone in the common room at dinner. Hermione rolled her eyes, but I saw her smile when she thought I wasn't looking. Even Fred and George said I had the natural talent, which coming from them, felt like a royal decree. But not everyone's thrilled. Malfoy wasn't finished. He challenged me to a wizard's duel. Said he'd meet me at midnight in the trophy room. I didn't want to go. I didn't care. But Ron did. He said I couldn't let him walk all over me. So we went. Hermione followed us. Said we were being completely irresponsible. Then she locked us out of Gryffindor Tower so she'd have to come too. Neville joined on accident, he'd been sleeping in the hallway. Malfoy wasn't there. Of course. But Filch was. He heard us. We had to run. And that's when we found the door. A door on the 3rd floor. Behind it, the dog. 3 heads. Yellow teeth. Eyes like coins. Each head snarled in a different direction. It was standing on a trapdoor. Guarding something. We slammed the door shut and ran. I think we all stopped breathing for a full minute. When we finally made it back, Hermione hissed at us. Said, you could have been killed. Or worse, expelled. But she didn't stop walking beside us. Didn't report us, either. She's annoying. And brilliant. And I think we need her. So now, there's a broom under my bed. And a secret behind a trapdoor. And something in me that woke up when I kicked off the ground today. The sky didn't scare me. I think that means something. December 25th, Christmas night. The common room is empty. The fire's gone to embers. Everyone else is asleep. But I couldn't, not after what I saw. I think I found a piece of magic no one else knows about. But let me start earlier. Today was Christmas. And it was strange. Not bad. Just full in a way I've never felt before. There were presents at the foot of my bed when I woke up. Not many. But one had no name on it. I opened it, and it was a cloak. Silvery. Light as smoke. It slid through my hands like water. Ron gasped. He said, that's an invisibility cloak. I didn't know what to say. The note inside just said, use it well. That was it. Nothing else. No signature. No explanation. So after dinner, while everyone else was off playing Exploding Snap or sleeping off pudding, I slipped it over my shoulders and vanished. I walked right out of Gryffindor Tower. Past a group of Slytherins. Past Filch. Past Mrs. Norris. They didn't see a thing. It was like being a shadow. Or less than a shadow, just a whisper in the castle. I don't even know what I was looking for. I think I just wanted to go. To be somewhere secret. Eventually, I found myself outside a room I'd never noticed be on my shoulder. And I could see them. They were there. I turned around, no one. Just the empty room. But when I looked back at the mirror, they were still with me. It wasn't a trick. It wasn't a dream. I stood in front of it for what felt like hours. Ron came in eventually. He'd followed my footprints, and when he looked in, he didn't see my parents. He saw himself. Head boy. Holding the Quidditch cup. Surrounded by admiration. That's when I knew. The mirror doesn't show what's there. It shows what you want most. It shows the truth inside your heart. Ron thinks it's brilliant. He kept talking about it for ages. But I haven't stopped thinking about what Dumbledore said when he caught me the second night. I'd gone back. I couldn't stay away. He didn't get angry. Just looked at me. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. He said the mirror will be moved. Said it's dangerous, how it traps people in what they long for. He said the mirror gives neither knowledge nor truth. But I don't know. It gave me something. Just for a moment. It gave me them. I miss them so much, and I don't even know what I'm missing. I don't think I'll go back. But I don't think I'll ever forget it, either. The mirror is gone now. The room is empty. But something inside me is different. Like I'm carrying the memory of them in my pocket. Quietly. Carefully. Always. January 18th. Late. Almost frozen ink. The windows are frosted over. The castle feels like it's wrapped in wool, thick, quiet, slow. Even the ghosts seem to float slower in winter. Classes have started again, but everything feels heavier. Like the cold is pressing into our thoughts as well as our fingers. Still, I can't stop thinking about the mirror. I haven't told anyone, not even Ron, but some nights, I still wake up hoping it'll just be there again. Waiting. But Dumbledore moved it. He said it was dangerous, and I believe him. So I've been focusing on something else. The trapdoor. The dog. The corridor. Snape's limp. Hagrid's strange answers. All of it. Something's being hidden. And I'm not imagining it anymore. We've been trying to figure out what. Hermione's been scouring every book in the library. Ron's been helping by being loud and sarcastic in the background. And today, we found something. Well, Hermione found it. Of course she did. We were sitting by the fire, just barely thawed from double herbology, when she shouted, "I've got it! Nicholas Flamel." I remember the name from somewhere. I'd seen it on a card, the chocolate frog card I got on the train. Dumbledore's. Turns out Flamel is a real wizard. An alchemist. Over 600 years old. And he created something called the Sorcerer's Stone. Hermione read the description out loud, her eyes wide, almost glowing. The stone can transform any metal into pure gold and produces the elixir of life, which makes the drinker immortal. That's what the dog is guarding. It has to be. Snape's been acting even more suspicious lately. He caught us in the corridor near the 3rd floor last week. Asked what we were doing out of bed. His eyes, they don't blink when he's angry. They just burn. He looked at me like he already knew. Like he was waiting for us to figure it out. And Hagrid, when we told him we knew about Flamel, he nearly dropped his teacup. Said we shouldn't meddle. What's under that trapdoor is between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel, he muttered. But that only confirms it. They're hiding the stone. And Snape wants it. Why? We don't know yet. Ron says he probably wants to make himself immortal. He'd be even worse with unlimited life, he joked. Imagine Snape lasting forever. That's a horror story. But I'm not so sure that's it. He's not just power hungry. There's something else behind his eyes. Something colder. I don't trust him. I've also started Quidditch practice again. First match is soon. Wood's running us like a drill sergeant, but I don't mind. When I'm flying, I stop thinking about the stone. About Voldemort. About any of it. It's just wind and sky and breath and speed. It's the one time I don't feel heavy. But once I land, the thoughts come back. Questions that won't go quiet. Something's coming. I can feel it moving closer. Like footsteps behind a door that's just beginning to open. January 22nd, can't sleep. I still can't believe it happened. Someone tried to kill me today. Not just scare me. Not prank me. Not Malfoy being Malfoy. Really kill me. It happened during the Quidditch match. The whole school came to watch. It was Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff, and everything started fine. Cold air. Bright sky. My broom felt steady. My fingers were shaking a little, but only with nerves, not fear. Then something changed. I was flying, and suddenly, the broom wasn't listening to me anymore. It started jerking. Twitching. Backing beneath me like it wanted to throw me off. I tried to grip tighter. Hold on. But it kept rising. Spinning. Twisting. And I couldn't stop it. At first people thought I was showing off. Then they saw me nearly fall. I don't remember much clearly. Everything was sky, then crowd, then sky again. My stomach dropped. My mind went white. I felt like I was hanging by my heartbeat. Hermione saved me. She saw Snape muttering under his breath, staring straight at me, lips moving like he was reciting something. She ran across the stands, climbed under them, and set fire to his cloak. It broke whatever was happening. The broom snapped back under my control, just in time for me to dive, hard, and catch the snitch in my mouth. We won the match. But no one was cheering. Everyone saw. Even Wood said afterward, that wasn't Quidditch. That was something else entirely. We tried to ask Hagrid about it again. He insisted Snape would never try to harm a student. Said he was a Hogwarts professor, as if that's supposed to mean something sacred. But when I told him we knew about Flammel and the stone, he froze. Said too much again. He mentioned someone named Nicholas helped Dumbledore secure the stone. That it was being protected. He said Snape wouldn't dare. He knows Dumbledore's watching. But it wasn't just about daring. It was intentional. And the spell was focused. Who else would want to knock me off my broom in front of hundreds of people? Snape. It has to be. Ron thinks so. Hermione, she still wants proof. But I can feel it. In the way Snape looks at me. Like I'm something he wants to undo. He knows something. Or he remembers something. I'm starting to wonder if this isn't just about the stone. Maybe it never was. Maybe it's about me. The boy who lived. I hate that title. It doesn't feel like me. It feels like someone else's legend, and I'm stuck playing catch-up with a story that was written before I could walk. I'm scared. Not of flying. Not of Quidditch. Not of school. But of what I don't know. And what they do. The truth is circling like an owl overhead. And I can feel it lowering its wings. February 14th, writing under blankets. It's late. The kind of late that doesn't even feel like night anymore. The fire's gone out, but I'm still warm, sort of. My cloak smells like pine and smoke, and I think I still have a twig in my sock. We were in the Forbidden Forest tonight. We weren't supposed to be. Detention. It started with Norbert. Hagrid's dragon. He won it in a card game, because of course he did. He'd been raising it in his hut, which, if you've never smelled baby dragon droppings before, is an experience I wouldn't recommend. Norbert was tiny at first. Ugly in a cute way. Wings like parchment, eyes like marbles. Then he started breathing fire. We tried to help. Really. But it got out of control fast. When Malfoy found out, we had to do something. So Ron wrote to his brother Charlie, who works with dragons in Romania. Arranged for Norbert to be taken away safely. We smuggled the dragon up to the tallest tower, under the invisibility cloak, past Filch and Mrs. Norris and 2 suits of armor that definitely moved when we weren't looking. We thought we'd done it. But we got caught on the way down. Malfoy followed us. So did Neville, bless him, he was trying to warn us. All 4 of us ended up with detention. Hagrid was upset. More about the dragon than us, I think. And our punishment? Into the Forbidden Forest. At night. I thought it would just be trees and mist. It wasn't. We were split into pairs to search for an injured unicorn. Something had been attacking them. Drinking their blood. It leaves silver on the leaves where they lie. Hagrid went with Ron and Hermione. I was sent with Malfoy. That's when I saw it. A hooded figure, crouched over a fallen unicorn. Its blood silver, glowing faintly in the dark. The figure's mouth pressed to the wound. And then, it looked at me. Not just saw me, looked into me. My scar burned. Not just a sting, fire. I thought I was going to pass out. I couldn't move. I couldn't even scream. And then a centaur appeared. Ferenz. He charged in and the figure vanished, melting into the shadows like smoke into wind. Ferenz told me what the others wouldn't. Unicorn blood will keep you alive, even if you're cursed, even if you should be dead. But it comes with a price. It marks you. Damns you. He said only someone with nothing to lose would drink it. He said the thing I saw, he thinks it was Voldemort. That he's still alive. Weak. Hiding. And that he might be after the stone. That night, changed something in me. I faced teachers I thought were evil. Dogs with 3 heads. A broomstick trying to kill me. But nothing was like standing in that clearing, with silver blood staining the earth and something old and cruel breathing nearby. It didn't feel like a lesson. It felt like a warning. I keep thinking about the forest. The way it felt alive. Listening. The trees don't forget, I think. And neither will I. June 4th, just after midnight. It's happening. We always knew it would. But now it's real. Close. The kind of close you can hear breathing behind a wall. I can't sleep. None of us can. We're sitting in the common room right now, me, Ron, Hermione. Everyone else went to bed hours ago. But we're still here, staring at the fire like it's going to tell us what to do. And I guess I'm writing this in case something happens. So I don't forget how it felt. This exact moment. Before. Let me go back a little. This morning, Hagrid told us he got a dragon egg from a stranger. Said the man in the pub wore a hood and asked a lot of questions. Too many. Especially about Fluffy. The 3-headed dog. And Hagrid, he told him. Told him you just play music and Fluffy falls asleep. We tried to tell Professor McGonagall. Tried to warn her. She didn't believe us. Said the stone was protected. That Dumbledore had left the school on urgent business and that we were letting our imaginations run wild. But we know what we saw. Snape, or someone else, is going to try to steal the stone. Tonight. So we decided. We're going down there. We don't know what's past that trapdoor. We just know we can't let whoever it is get there first. Hermione said we could get expelled. Ron laughed. We could die, he said, and she's worried about exams. But truthfully, We're all scared. There's something strange about the castle tonight. The air feels too still. The portraits are watching us more closely than usual. The halls echoed when we walked them after curfew. Even the moon looked sharper through the windows, like a coin you could cut yourself on. We used the invisibility cloak. Got past Filch, Mrs. Norris, even Peeves, though he almost saw us. We reached the third-floor corridor. And we played the flute. Fluffy was already drowsy when we got there, so Ron played the flute Hagrid gave me for Christmas. The notes trembled, but it worked. The dog slumped, all three head snoring. We opened the trap door. Ron went first. Then Hermione. Then me. We fell into Devil's Snare. It tried to strangle us, thick vines, tight and cold like underwater weeds. Hermione figured it out. Told us to relax. It hated light, hated calm. That was the first challenge. We landed in a room full of flying keys. One of them opened the next door, but they were all enchanted, fluttering like silver birds, snapping and zipping away when we got close. I spotted the right one, a bit battered, with a bent wing. Ron and I got brooms. I chased it down, hand burning as it cut my fingers. But I caught it. The key turned, and the door opened. Next was the chessboard. A giant one. Life-sized. No way forward unless we played. Ron took the lead. He played brilliantly. Sacrificed himself so Hermione and I could checkmate the king. I still hear the sound of the rook crashing into him. He's okay. We moved him to the side gently. He told us to keep going. So we did. The next room had a riddle. Potions. A logic puzzle. Hermione solved it. Of course she did. Only one bottle let you move forward. One let you go back. The others were poison. She made me drink the one to go on. She stayed behind with Ron. Told me to finish it. I'm writing this now from the other side of the flames. There's just one more door. And behind it, whoever's trying to take the stone. I'm scared. But I'm also ready. Whatever happens next. I have to know the truth. About the stone. About the night my parents died. About me. I'll leave this journal here, tucked just behind the mirror on the far wall. Just in case. If no one finds it, that's okay. But if they do, please tell Ron and Hermione they were the best part of all of this. Here I go. June 5th, hospital wing, sometime after waking up. I'm alive. I didn't think I'd be writing that. I don't even remember falling asleep, but when I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was white linen and sunlight and Dumbledore sitting beside my bed. So yes, I'm alive. But I saw death. I looked it in the face. Or something like death. Something worse. Behind the final door. It wasn't Snape. It was Quirrell. Quirrell, the stammering, twitchy professor who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. He wasn't weak. He wasn't scared. He was pretending. He was the one trying to steal the stone. The one who let the troll in on Halloween. The one jinxing my broom at the Quidditch match. Snape was trying to stop him. I was wrong. Quirrell told me everything like it was already over. That he'd been working for Voldemort. And then, he unwrapped his turban. He didn't just work for Voldemort. Voldemort was inside him. Living as a face, on the back of his head. I don't even know how to explain it. I still see it when I blink. Pale skin, red eyes, slitted nose. Eyes that knew me. Eyes that had tried to kill me once and were trying again. He wanted the stone. It was in my pocket. Except, it hadn't been, before. The mirror of 𝒆𝒑 was there again. I looked into it and saw myself putting the stone in my pocket, and then it was actually there. Somehow. Quirrell tried to take it from me. But when he touched me, he screamed. His hands blistered. His skin burned. Wherever he touched me, his body began to fall apart. He couldn't hold me. He couldn't touch me. Dumbledore told me why later. It was love. My mother's love. A protection so old and powerful, it lives in my skin like a second heartbeat. When Voldemort tried to take me, her sacrifice became a kind of shield. One he couldn't see. One he couldn't break. That's why I survived then. That's why I survived now. I passed out before the end. The last thing I heard was Quirrell screaming. Then, blackness. When I woke up, I was in the hospital wing. Ron and Hermione were okay. Ron's head was bandaged. Hermione had been reading at my bedside when Dumbledore arrived. She pretended not to be crying. I didn't mention it. Dumbledore answered my questions, but not all of them. He said the stone was destroyed. Flamel agreed it was safest. He said death is but the next great adventure. He said Voldemort isn't truly gone. That is still out there, weak, scattered, waiting. But he also said this. What happened in that chamber was between you and him. And your mother. And the kind of person you are becoming. I'm still not sure what kind of person that is. But I know I'm not the same. I faced something dark. And I didn't run. I was scared. But I didn't run. That has to count for something. I'm tired now. I think I'll sleep for real. The stone is gone. The year is almost over. And for now, we're safe. June 20th, the train ride home. The Hogwarts Express is rumbling beneath me again. It feels different this time. The window looks the same. Green hills, winding tracks, sky cracked open with gold, but something's changed. I'm not watching it from the outside anymore. I'm part of the story now. The castle disappeared behind us an hour ago. Just a faint silhouette now in the distance, like a memory with turrets. Ron's asleep in the seat across from me. Crooked mouth, one sock falling off. Hermione's reading, as usual, but every few pages she stops and stares out the window like she's remembering something important. Something she hasn't quite figured out how to say. I know the feeling. So I'm writing instead. My last entry before summer. Maybe my last one for a while. The feast after the hospital wing felt like something out of a dream. I walked into the Great Hall and everything froze. It was silent, until Dumbledore stood up and smiled like I'd just returned from some long, noble journey. He gave out the house cup points. Slytherin was winning, of course. Their table was already celebrating. Malfoy looked smug enough to explode. But then Dumbledore spoke. He gave Ron 50 points for the best game of chess Hogwarts had seen in years. Hermione got 50 points for cool logic in the face of fire. Me? 60 points. For courage and something he called pure, unselfish bravery. And then? Neville. 10 points. For standing up to his friends. It was that last one that did it. Gryffindor won. The banners changed. The hall erupted. I think Fred and George were actually crying. Malfoy's face turned the color of spoiled milk. It was the first time I'd ever felt like I was on a team. Not just near one. Leaving Hogwarts was harder than I expected. I thought I'd be ready. The classes, the stairs, the trolls and dogs and curses, it was a lot. But when I packed my trunk, my fingers slowed. I kept thinking about all the little things I'd miss. The way the castle creaked like it was breathing. The smell of toast in the morning drifting through the common room. The sound of Hedwig landing softly on the windowsill in the middle of the night. The hum of the portraits as they whispered to one another when they thought we weren't listening. Even Peeves. Even Snape, in some strange way. McGonagall shook my hand before I boarded the train. She said, "Well done, Potter. You've earned your summer. And Dumbledore? He just smiled and said, until next time. I think he knows things before they happen. I think he sees people. Really sees them. And for some reason, he's decided I matter. That's still hard to believe. I keep thinking about the mirror. The stone is gone. Voldemort's gone, for now. But the mirror still lingers in my thoughts. Not the object itself, be you. And I might let them wonder. Just a little. I'll miss Hogwarts. I'll miss them. But I'll be back. In September, I return. And next time, I'll know the way. June 21st, home again, sort of. The cupboard's still here. The locks. The stairs creaking overhead. The smell of stale air and bleach. But I'm not the same boy who lived here before. I came home different. Not because I'm famous. Not because I faced Voldemort. Not even because I saved the stone. But because I belonged somewhere, once. And now I know I can belong again. If I had to write it down, and I suppose I'd say this year was a little bit everything. I learned spells. Real ones. Rode a broom. Made 2 best friends. Faced down a mountain troll. Found a mirror that showed my parents. Discovered I was part of something bigger than I'd ever known. And lived to write about it. I also found out the world is darker than fairy tales say it is. And more beautiful, too. There's pain in it. Loss. Danger. Secrets behind doors you're not supposed to open. But there's also music that makes giant dogs fall asleep. And ghosts who pass through your chest with a giggle. And teachers who hand you chocolate after a Dementor flies too close. Okay, that one hasn't happened yet, but I heard about them. Next year. I don't know what's coming. But I can feel it. Like wind before a storm. Something waiting. Ron says Hogwarts always finds new ways to get you nearly killed. Hermione says we should revise more in case we survive. Me? I just keep thinking about that night in the forest. About Voldemort, still out there, hiding in shadows. Weak. But not gone. He'll try again. I know it. In my scar. In my bones. But I'll be stronger. We all will. Because I'm not just Harry anymore. I'm not just the boy under the stairs. I'm Harry Potter. And I've got a wand, a trunk, 2 best friends, and a seat on the train back to Hogwarts. Let him try. I'll be ready. July 31st, my birthday. Sort of. The Dursleys forgot again. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe forgetting is just easier for them than pretending I'm real. No cake. No card. No happy birthday, Harry. Just a quiet dinner of boiled ham and Dudley asking for more. He asked for more 5 times. Got it every time. I didn't ask for anything. Not that it would have mattered. Uncle Vernon still glares at me like he's waiting for me to explode. Like I'm hiding something sharp in my sleeves. I'm not. I haven't done a single spell. I can't. Underage magic is banned outside of Hogwarts. But I don't think they really believe me. Aunt Petunia flinched when I said owl last week. Dudley still calls me the freak when he thinks no one's listening. I haven't heard from Ron. Or Hermione. Or anyone. Not a single letter all summer. It's like the wizarding world just vanished. They locked my trunk in the cupboard under the stairs. Hedwig's in a cage. She hoots softly at night, restless. She hates being shut in. So do I. They made me promise not to say the word magic. I've said it in my head 27 times today. Sometimes I whisper it into my pillow. Tonight, they had guests over, Mr. and Mrs. Mason. Important clients for Uncle Vernon. He made me promise to stay silent in my room and pretend I didn't exist. I will be charming, he said at dinner. And you will be locked upstairs, pretending to be, what is it again? Unwell? Disturbed? So I sat in my room, listening to Dudley fake laugh from the hallway, counting the minutes, watching the ceiling fan turn. And then I heard the noise. A thump. Like someone had dropped a sack of flour onto the bed. I turned, and there he was. An elf. Small, no taller than the dresser. Big ears like bat wings. Tennis ball eyes. He was wearing a pillowcase like a tunic, tied at the sides. His hands trembled as he bowed so low his nose brushed the carpet. He said his name was Dobby. He said he was a house elf. He said I must not return to Hogwarts. He spoke in riddles at first. Wouldn't say who he belonged to. Just that he is powerful and important and he will punish Dobby if he hears Dobby is here. But Dobby knew things. He knew I hadn't been getting my letters. He said he'd been stopping them. Hiding them. So I'd think my friends had forgotten me. So I wouldn't want to go back. He said terrible things were going to happen at Hogwarts this year. That it wasn't safe. I told him I had to go back. That it was the only place I'd ever felt like I wasn't broken. Dobby cried. Then he dashed down the stairs, into the living room, and dropped Aunt Petunia's pudding all over the Masons. He used magic. In front of Muggles. The dish exploded. The cream slid down Mrs. Mason's pearls. Uncle Vernon's face turned the color of Dudley's school tie. The Masons left in a fury. And then, an owl came. From the Ministry of Magic. It dropped a letter on my head. A warning. Dear Mr. Potter, we have received intelligence that a hover charm was used at your place of residence at 12 minutes past 8 this evening. They think I did it. One more offense, and I'll be expelled. Uncle Vernon read the letter. Then he turned to me with a look I'd never seen before. Not just anger. Not even hatred. Satisfaction. Like he'd finally won. His locked Hedwig in her cage. Hammered bars across my window. I'm a prisoner now. In the only house I've ever known. Dobby's gone. He vanished mid-sob after punishing himself by banging his head against the lamp. I don't know what kind of magic can track a hover charm but can't tell who actually cast it. But I do know this. Something is going to happen. Something is already happening. And Hogwarts is still calling to me, louder than ever. The next morning, I woke up to a sound outside my window. Scraping. Knocking. I pulled back the curtains. There was a car. Flying. And inside, Ron. He waved like it was completely normal. Fred and George were in the front seat. Ron mouthed, "We're getting you out." Next entry, after escape. August 2nd, Aldborough. I don't think I've stopped smiling since yesterday. My cheeks actually hurt. I'm sitting in Ron's room now, on a real bed, under a real blanket, with a Chudley Cannons poster above my head. There's a pile of homemade fudge on the nightstand and a stack of Ron's old spellbooks next to it. Everything in here is a little bit crooked and hand-painted and warm. It's perfect. Here's what happened. Ron, Fred, and George showed up outside my window. In a flying car. Their dad enchanted it, an old Ford Anglia. Sky blue, with squeaky hinges and a horn that sounds like a goose choking. They parked it mid-air, just outside the barred window of number 4. Fred picked the lock on the window. George bent the bars with something he called a Muggle pick-me-up charm. And the three of them hauled my trunk out with a rope. I nearly cried. They even brought string for Hedwig's cage. They didn't ask questions. Didn't tell me I should have written. Didn't make me explain why I looked like I hadn't slept in weeks. They just came to get me. Because they knew. Because friends do that. We flew across the countryside. It was still dark, just before dawn. Fog lying low over the fields like a blanket. The wind snapped through my hair. Ron leaned across the front seat and shouted, "We're not allowed to drive it normally, so don't tell Mum." Fred and George were laughing. The car hiccuped every time we climbed too steeply. I gripped the edge of the window until my knuckles turned white, but I wasn't scared. Not once. Then we saw it. The burrow. It looked like it had been built in pieces. A squat stone base, then floors stacked like books in a hurry, chimney leaning slightly to the left, a crooked sign that read "The Burrow" stuck into the ground with a pitchfork. It was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen. Pots floated by themselves in the kitchen. The clock didn't tell time, it told where everyone was: home, lost, mortal peril. Mrs. Weasley was waiting for us. She wasn't happy. Not with them. Not at all. But when she looked at me, her voice softened. "Oh, Harry, dear," she said, brushing dirt off my shoulder like I was her own son. She fed us sausages, eggs, toast, tea. Piled our plates high, then snapped at Fred for stealing marmalade and gave Ron a glare that could curdle milk. It felt like home in a way that stung a little. Because I didn't know what I'd been missing until I saw it. Mr. Weasley came home from work and asked how the car flew. Not why we'd stolen it. Not why we risked being expelled. Just how. Ron groaned. Mrs. Weasley nearly exploded. I sat between them and laughed so hard I nearly choked. Later, we denomed the garden. It was ridiculous. You have to grab the gnome, spin it like a discus until it's dizzy, and toss it over the hedge. They bite your knuckles and scream like gremlins. Fred said I had good form. George tried to set a record. Ron threw one into the pond. Even Percy cracked a smile. I wrote to Hermione. She'd been worried sick. Said she'd been sending letters all summer and couldn't understand why they weren't getting through. Dobby. It had to be Dobby. The little elf was trying to cut me off. From everything. But he failed. Because I'm here. And I'm going back to Hogwarts. The burrow is loud. And messy. And full of socks that fold themselves and mirrors that tell you to comb your hair. I've never felt safer. I think this is what it's like to be loved. And I think I could get used to it. August 18th, back at the burrow, late evening. Magic doesn't always feel safe. It's still beautiful, sometimes painfully so, but today reminded me that beauty and danger can wear the same cloak. Sometimes even the same smile. We went to Diagon Alley today. We were supposed to go together, all of us. Mr. Weasley had the day off. Fred, George, Percy, Ron, Ginny, and me. We were going to use the Flu network for the first time. That was the plan. Stand in the fireplace, grab some Flu powder, speak clearly, and let the magic pull you through. I'd never done it before. I watched the twins vanish into the green flames like it was nothing. They just shouted the Diagon Alley and disappeared. Then it was my turn. I took a handful. Stepped in. The half scraped my shoulders. I said the words. Or I tried to. I coughed. It came out wrong, diagonally. And everything spun. I didn't land in Diagon Alley. I crashed into a cold, dark shop filled with things that looked like they shouldn't be touched. Hand-shaped candles. Cursed jewelry. A cage in the corner that was definitely moving. Borgin and Burks. I ducked behind a cabinet as the bell jingled and someone walked in. Draco Malfoy. With his father. Lucius Malfoy is like Draco in a mirror, older, colder, quieter. His voice never rises. It sinks. Every word feels like a trap with the door already shut. He was selling artifacts. Dark ones. Hiding things from the ministry. Smoothing his gloves. Telling Draco not to associate with the wrong sort. Then he said something about the Weasleys. Called them disgracefully poor and blood traitors. Draco laughed. He always laughs when someone else is smaller than him. I held my breath until they left. Then Hagrid found me. He'd come into Nocturne Alley to buy flesh-eating slug repellent for the school gardens, of course he had. He led me back out into the light, hand on my shoulder. It felt like surfacing. When we finally reached Diagon Alley, the Weasleys were frantic. Mrs. Weasley hugged me so tight my ribs squeaked. And then we saw him. Gilderoy Lockhart. At Flourish and Blots. He was doing a book signing, robes like turquoise wallpaper, teeth so white they sparkled. He saw me and yanked me forward like I was a puppy on a leash. The crowd surged. Cameras flashed. He shouted something about me being his youngest admirer and shoved a stack of his books into my arms. Then he posed. Wide smile. Arm on my shoulder. Like we were old friends. I couldn't breathe. Then Malfoy showed up again. He said I was enjoying the fame. Said I was lucky I didn't have to work for it. His father and Mr. Weasley got into it. Wands in pockets. Words sharp enough to draw blood. But it was what Mr. Malfoy did at the end that I can't stop thinking about. He picked up Ginny's old Transfiguration book. Looked at it like it was garbage. Then handed it back, slipping something inside before anyone could see. He walked away smiling. And Ginny's face turned pale. Something happened today. Something small. Hidden. But important. I can feel it. The same way I felt the trapdoor beneath Fluffy. The same way I felt the mirror watching me when I was alone. Something's coming. And it started today. September 1st, somewhere in the Forbidden Forest. We were supposed to be on the train. We were supposed to be eating chocolate frogs and talking about what classes we had and laughing at Percy being prefect again. But instead, I'm writing this from the back of a flying car that's half stuck in a tree. Let me go back. This morning was a blur of socks, toast, and last-minute packing. The burrow was buzzing, Mrs. Weasley yelling about clean underwear, Mr. Weasley trying to shrink everyone's trunks without setting them on fire. Ron and I loaded Hedwig and Scabbers into their cages, then piled into the enchanted car with Fred, George, Percy, and Ginny. It was chaos. The good kind. We made it to King's Cross. The station smelled like oil and newspaper. Everyone was rushing somewhere else. We ran toward the barrier. Fred and George went through together, no problem. Then Ginny. Then Percy. Then... we couldn't. Ron and I ran at it, hard. But instead of passing through like usual, we hit it. Bam! Solid. Cold. Metal. Platform 9 3/4 had closed itself. We tried again. Nothing. Just brick. The clock was ticking. The train was leaving. And then Ron said we could fly the car. I didn't think. I just nodded. We snuck back to the car, loaded our trunks, buckled ourselves in, sort of, and Ron turned the key. The engine groaned, lifted, and suddenly, we were in the sky. Flying over London. Flying toward Hogwarts. It was amazing. At first. The clouds were warm and cottony. The sun sparkled off the rooftops. We followed the train tracks, waving at towns, letting the wind pull at our hair. We felt like wizards. But then, the car started shaking. The engine coughed. The sky got darker. We flew lower. Lower still. Trees were rising up toward us. The clouds had turned grey and heavy. The car was tired. We saw the castle just before it happened, towers cutting the sky, windows glowing faintly. And then we hit the Whomping Willow. The tree did not appreciate being used as a parking spot. It attacked. One branch slammed the roof. Another snapped at the windshield. The car groaned, spun, and rocked like it was trying to fight back. Ron and I screamed. Hedwig hooted. Scabbers shrieked. I grabbed my wand, but the tree was too fast. Then, with a jolt, the car flung us out. It tossed our trunks, hooted in fury, and drove away into the forest. I'm not joking. It drove itself into the woods and vanished like it had had enough of magic students for one lifetime. We limped up to the castle gates just as the feast was ending. Professor McGonagall was waiting. She looked tired. Disappointed. Not surprised, somehow. Like she'd expected this exact thing from us. Snape was with her. He was delighted. He said we'd be expelled. Said we could have broken the International Statute of Secrecy and risked lives. Said we were reckless, foolish, dangerous. And he wasn't entirely wrong. But McGonagall gave us detention instead. And took points from Gryffindor. And told us next time we should just wait for her. We barely touched dinner. The feast was over by the time we got to the table. Fred and George clapped us on the back like we were legends. Percy glared like we'd shamed the family. Hermione looked like she couldn't decide whether to scold us or cry. And I just kept thinking about the barrier. How it closed only for us. As if someone didn't want us at school this year. Someone's pulling strings again. And the game's already begun. October 31st, just after curfew. The castle is too quiet tonight. The torches crackle like they're whispering. The portraits are whispering too, I think, but not to us. No one's saying anything out loud, but we all feel it. Something is very wrong. It started with a voice. Not like a dream, not like a thought, a voice. Cold. Sharp. Hissing. Kill. Kill. So hungry, for so long. I heard it during the Halloween feast. 1 second I was laughing at nearly headless Nick's costume. He tried to swing his head all the way off this year, and the next. Silence. Inside me. Like something had replaced the air in my lungs with ice. The voice slithered into my ears like smoke under a door. Rip, tear, kill. I stood up without realizing it. My legs just moved. Ron and Hermione followed. I told them I'd heard something. Ron asked what kind of voice. I told them it sounded like it wanted to hurt someone. Hermione paled. She said, "No spell does that, Harry." But I know what I heard. We ran through the corridors, following it, me chasing the sound, them chasing me. And then we saw it. The wall. Soaked in water. The torches flickering wildly, as if they were afraid. Hung just above the stone floor, Mrs. Norris. Filch's cat. Still. Stiff. Eyes wide and cloudy. Next to her, in giant red letters, not paint. Blood. The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. My stomach turned. Ron stopped breathing. Hermione grabbed my arm like the wall might pull us in. Then the voices came, real ones. Students. They flooded in, footsteps echoing down the hall, gasps bursting like fireworks. Malfoy saw the writing and grinned like it was a birthday cake made just for him. Enemies of the air, better watch out, mudbloods. The word stung, even though he didn't say it to me. Hermione flinched. Filch pushed through the crowd. When he saw Mrs. Norris, something broke in his face. He pointed at me. You killed her. You, curse you. I didn't even speak. I couldn't. Dumbledore arrived. So did Snape, McGonagall, Lockhart, who claimed he once cured a cursed iguana in Peru. Dumbledore examined Mrs. Norris and said, gently, she is not dead. Just petrified. It didn't make me feel much better. They questioned me, but Dumbledore believed me. Snape didn't. Potter was found at the scene, he said, voice slow as honey and twice as thick. Perhaps he was in the wrong place. Or perhaps he has an unhealthy curiosity for dark magic. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because I wasn't just afraid I'd be blamed. I was afraid I was somehow involved, because I'd heard it again just before it happened. That voice. Cold. Empty. Hungry. Filch thinks I cursed his cat. The Slytherins think I wrote on the wall. And now the school is whispering again about me. Hermione has started researching the Chamber of Secrets. Ron says his. Any nearly headless Nick, who was floating beside him, frozen in mid-whale. It's spreading. And people are looking at me more. They think I'm cursed. That I'm dark. That I know something. But I don't. Not really. Except I am hearing the voice more. In the walls. Always just before someone gets hurt. Hermione's been reading constantly, wandering between the library and Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Yes. Her bathroom. Turns out Myrtle was a student who died here. Now she lives in the pipes. Sobs loudly. Screeches at anyone who uses her sink. She saw something the night of the last attack. A pair of glowing eyes through a drain. She screamed and flushed every toilet in the room. It's not much of a clue. But Myrtle is tied to all of this. I know it. Today, Ron and I were with her when we found it. The diary. It was just lying there on the wet tile floor, half soaked in ghost water. No name. Black cover. Empty pages. We dried it off. I flipped through every one, nothing. Not a mark. Not a title. Not a signature. It didn't look magical. But it felt wrong. Too blank. Too silent. Like it was holding its breath. Ron thought it might be dangerous. Suggested we give it to a teacher. I didn't. I brought it back to the dormitory instead. And tonight, I wrote in it. Just a question. Do you know anything about the Chamber of Secrets? The ink sank in. And then, a new line appeared. Yes. It wrote back. The diary belongs to someone named Tom Riddle. He says he was a student at Hogwarts 50 years ago. Says he saw the chamber open before. Says he knows who did it. He offered to show me. The page glowed. I touched the ink. And I fell in. It wasn't like the pensive. It wasn't like a memory. It was more like a trapdoor opening under my thoughts. I stood in the past. In the corridor. Watched the teachers argue about closing the school. And then I saw him. Tom. Dark-haired, clever, quiet. He looked like a head boy. Polished. Calculated. He followed someone that night. Into the dungeons. A huge figure with wild hair and a baby creature in a box. Hagrid. Tom Riddle accused Hagrid of opening the chamber. And the memory ended. I don't know what to think. Could Hagrid really have done it? He's clumsy. Big-hearted. Half-giant. A little reckless, maybe, but dangerous. I can't believe that. But I saw it. And the diary doesn't lie, does it? I haven't told anyone yet. Not even Ron. It's too heavy. Too big. And it feels like the diary knows I'm keeping it. When I touched it again tonight, it felt warm. Too warm. Like it's alive. February 5th, I don't know what I am. They all saw. They saw me. And now they're afraid. I don't think I'll ever forget the look on their faces, not Malfoy's smirk or Hermione's wide eyes or the way the Hufflepuffs leaned back like I'd grown fangs. Maybe I have. It started with a dueling club. Lockhart's idea, of course. Self-defense against the dark arts. He announced, swinging his ridiculous lilac robes and nearly blinding someone with a charm that turned Professor Snape's cloak momentarily transparent. Snape was less than thrilled. Still, he agreed to help. He stood next to Lockhart, pale and sharp as a scalpel, and demonstrated a disarming charm that knocked Lockhart onto his back in 2 seconds flat. Everyone applauded. Except Lockhart. Then we were paired off. Ron with Seamus. Hermione with Millicent Bulstrode. Me with Draco. He looked delighted. We bowed. Then immediately tried to hex each other. I missed with Rick to Sempra. He hit me with something that made my legs go jelly-rigid. Sparks flew. Someone screamed. Lockhart panicked and shouted, "Let's move on to creatures." He meant snakes. Draco conjured one. Not a garden snake, a long, thick, black one that slithered across the stage with its tongue flicking and its body coiling in hunger. Everyone backed away. Except me. The snake turned toward a terrified Hufflepuff boy. Justin Finch Fletchley. The same one who'd been nearly attacked just weeks ago. And before I could think, I stepped forward and said, "Leave him alone." The snake stopped. Tilted its head. I said it again. Louder. It obeyed. Then I realized. No one else had understood. They hadn't heard, "Leave him alone." They'd heard hissing. Long, low, sharp. Snake speech. Parseltongue. It's a rare gift, they say. A dark gift, they say. Salazar Slytherin had it. So did Voldemort. And now, so do I. Afterward, everyone backed away from me like I'd sprouted horns. Even Justin. Especially Justin. He didn't look at me like a hero who'd stopped a snake. He looked at me like I was one. Hermione said, "It's not bad, Harry. It's just uncommon." But her voice was tight, like she was trying to tie her thoughts into something safe. Ron just nodded and said, "My mum says you know who could talk to snakes." I didn't ask for this. I didn't choose it. But it's inside me, like the voice in the walls. And now the whole school thinks I'm the heir of Slytherin. I don't even know who I'm heir to. I just know that every time the voice comes back, I feel something cold uncurl in my chest. Something ancient. Hungry. And I'm scared. Not of the snake. Of myself. May 8th, I can still hear them. I don't think I'll ever hear it. The scuttling. The clicking. The way the forest seemed to breathe with legs. They took Hagrid. It happened fast. Too fast. 1 minute, Ron and I were sitting in the common room, whispering about the diary, about how it had gone missing, just vanished from under my pillow, and the next, we heard boots on stone and shouting from the entrance hall. Cornelius Fudge. Minister for Magic. Grey mustache, heavy coat, a smile like a curtain being drawn too quickly. And behind him, Lucius Malfoy. Of course. They came to take Hagrid to Azkaban. Not just suspend him. Not question him. Take him. They think he opened the chamber again. That he's behind the attacks. That he's dangerous. I wanted to shout. That it wasn't him. That I knew it wasn't him. That the voice in the walls doesn't sound like Hagrid, it sounds like death. But the words didn't come fast enough. And then he was gone. Before he left, he bent down, looked right at us, and said, "If anyone wanted to find out something, all they'd have to do would be to follow the spiders." Then the door closed. And he was gone. So we followed them. It sounds ridiculous now. But we did. Ron was terrified. You should have seen his face when he saw the first spider, big as a thimble, crawl out of the window and vanish into the grass. But he came with me anyway. We slipped out under the cloak. Into the grounds. Into the forbidden forest. The tree swallowed us fast. Branches snapped behind us like twigs under something heavier. The light thinned. The fog thickened. We followed the spiders. Hundreds of them, scattering across the moss like threads of black ink spilled over the ground. And then we found them. Or they found us. Acromantulas. Spiders the size of cars. Eyes like wet stones. Fangs like silver daggers. We were surrounded. And then, from the dark, a voice. Aragog. Old. Blind. His voice thick and echoing. He told us everything. That he did not kill the girl 50 years ago. That he was not the monster of the chamber. That Hagrid was innocent. And then he told us we would make a good meal. Because his children were hungry. And he was old. And kindness doesn't always mean mercy. We ran. The car saved us. The car. The one that drove itself into the forest at the start of the year. It came crashing through the trees, doors flung open, horn blaring. It found us. Let us in. And drove. Branches hit the windows. The forest tried to hold us back. But we escaped. We collapsed onto the grass outside the forest, mud-soaked, shaking, alive. Ron didn't speak for 10 minutes. When he did, he said, "I'm never following a spider again." I just nodded. Because the truth is, the monster isn't Aragog. It never was. It's still in the castle. In the pipes. In the walls. And it's waiting. May 28th, I can't stop shaking. Hermione is petrified. I'm writing this because I don't know what else to do. I can't talk about it, not properly. Not to Ron. Not even to myself, really. She's in the hospital wing. Frozen. Eyes wide, mouth open, fingers curled like she was still holding something when the moment hit. Like a photograph of a scream. Madame Pomfrey says she's stable. That she might wake up once they find the mandrake cure. But her face, her stillness. It doesn't feel like sleep. It feels like stone. Ron's trying to stay angry. That's how he copes. He kicks the legs of chairs when no one's looking. Shouts about Malfoy. Rants about Dumbledore being forced to leave. About the governors caving to fear. About how the real heir of Slytherin is still out there, still doing this. I don't say much. Because while he's raging, I'm listening. The voice is back. It came again last night. Louder than ever. Crawling under the floorboards of the dormitory. Pressing against my skull like it wanted to become me. Let me rip, tear, kill. It's not just a voice. It's a thing. A hunger. And I think I know where it's been hiding. Today, Ron and I went to visit Hermione again. We didn't say anything at first. Just sat next to her bed. The curtains moved a little in the breeze, but everything else was still. Like even the air didn't want to disturb her. That's when we saw it. Her hand. Curled around a torn scrap of parchment. Tight. I pried it loose, slowly. It was a page. Old. Ripped from a library book. Wrinkled at the edges. But the ink was still clear. One word circled in her neat little handwriting. Basilisk. Underneath, notes in the margins. Kills with its gaze. Spiders flee it. Moves through pipes. Everything fell into place. The monster in the chamber is a basilisk. A giant serpent. That's the voice I've been hearing. Not words. Parseltongue. That's why no one else hears it. Because I'm the only one who understands it. That's why everyone who was attacked didn't die. They saw reflections. Through water. Through glass. Through a camera lens. Colin. Justin. Nearly headless Nick. Hermione. Even Mrs. Norris. No one looked it in the eye directly. That's the only reason they're alive. But Hermione figured it out. And whoever's behind this knew. That's why they went after her. Because she was getting close. Because she was right. We took the page to Professor McGonagall. She read it. Went pale. Nodded once. Then whispered, "You boys stay in the common room. Do not leave. Not for anything." We didn't listen. Because Ginny Weasley has gone missing. They found her things in the girls' bathroom. And scrawled on the wall. Her skeleton will lie in the chamber forever. They are sending the teachers to search. They're preparing to send the students home. But we know where the entrance is. We have to know. It's Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Hermione had already solved it. She was always there, watching. Myrtle died 50 years ago. She was the girl. She saw the eyes. The entrance is there. It has to be. So tomorrow, Ron and I are going in. Whether anyone lets us or not. We have to save her. June 1st, I'm writing this in case I don't come back. I'm leaving this page under my pillow. If you find it, tell Ron and Hermione they were the best part of all of it. This morning feels like 100 years ago. Everything moved so fast. Like the castle itself knew time was running out. First, we tried to tell a teacher. Professor McGonagall. But the hallway was empty. The staff had gone to search the dungeons for Ginny. Every classroom echoed. No footsteps. No portraits talking. Just the sound of us running. So we went to Lockhart. We didn't have a choice. He was packing. Shoving books into his trunk. Flipping through pages like he didn't recognize them. He confessed. Said he'd never done the things in his books. That he'd stolen other wizard stories. Modified their memories. He was a lie in lilac robes. Ron and I raised our wands. Told him he was coming with us. We dragged him to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. She told us everything. She remembered dying. Felt the cold when the stall door opened. Saw the eyes. Heard the words. That was the day the first girl died. That girl was her? The entrance was beneath a sink. No taps. Just a carving of a snake. I whispered to it in Parseltongue. The sink sank into the floor. The pipe opened. And we jumped. It wasn't a slide. Not really. It was like falling down a throat that never ended. Cold, damp, walls slick with slime. We dropped for what felt like forever. We landed in a cavern. Dark. Stone everywhere. And bones. So many bones. Then we found the wall. Serpents carved into it. Arching like fangs above a mouth. I spoke again. The mouth opened. Inside, everything smelled like old secrets and something still alive. We moved slowly. Wand light barely reaching the corners. Then the ceiling fell. Ron and Lockhart were separated. A cave in. Lockhart tried to curse us with Ron's wand. It backfired. He lost his memory. Completely blank. Ron stayed to dig him out. I went forward. Alone. The chamber was massive. Columns thick as castle towers. Water pooling on the floor. Carvings of snakes coiled around every surface. And at the end, Ginny. Lying still. Pale. I ran to her. Called her name. Shook her shoulder. She didn't move. And then he stepped out of the shadows. Tom Riddle. Not older. Not a ghost. Not a memory. A boy. Calm. Clean robes. Hands behind his back. He smiled like he already knew everything I would say. He told me he'd been waiting. He told me it was him. Tom Marvolo Riddle. And then he drew his wand and wrote his name in the air. The letters rearranged. I am Lord Voldemort. He'd preserved a piece of himself in the diary. Fed on Ginny's fears. Used her to open the chamber. To hurt the others. To write the words on the wall. And now that she was almost gone, drained, he was nearly whole again. And he wanted me dead. Then the basilisk came. He called it in Parseltongue. The whole chamber shook as it slithered from the mouth of the serpent statue. I couldn't run. I couldn't look. I just listened. And then, help came. A flash of fire. Fawkes. Dumbledore's phoenix. He dropped something into my hands. A sword. The basilisk struck. Blind now, Fawkes had slashed its eyes. But still deadly. Still huge. Still fast. It lunged. I ran. Water splashed, stones cracked, my heart slammed into my ribs like a battering ram. And when it turned again, I drove the sword into the roof of its mouth. The fang pierced my arm. I dropped to the floor. Everything blurred. Fawkes cried. 1 tear. 2. On my wound. It healed. Phoenix tears. They cure poison. I opened the diary with trembling hands. Pulled the fang from my arm. And stabbed the book. Ink screamed. Riddle's face twisted, shocked, betrayed, furious. He vanished like steam in the cold. Ginny stirred. She's alive. We're alive. We left the chamber together. Ron met us, muddy and stunned. We brought Lockhart too, who kept asking if we were his brothers. And now we're back. The school doesn't know yet. But tomorrow, the truth comes out. And maybe, for the first time, it'll stay out. June 3rd, I think I'm still in shock. Everything feels too bright. The corridors look the same. The portraits nod when I pass. The suits of armor creak and stretch like they've just woken from a nap. But something has shifted. Like the castle is breathing again. Ginny is okay. Really okay. She hasn't said much. But she hugged Ron for a full minute and didn't let go. She clung to me too, whispering, "I'm sorry," over and over again. I told her she didn't have to be. It wasn't her fault. She didn't know the diary was a trap. She didn't know he was inside it. She didn't know she was being used by Voldemort. I barely did. We told Dumbledore everything. Every word. We stood in his office, me, Ron, Ginny, McGonagall, Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, and I told him about the diary. About Tom Riddle. About the chamber. About Fawkes. About the sword. He didn't interrupt once. Just listened. When I finished, he nodded slowly and said, "Remarkable. Utterly remarkable." And then he looked me right in the eye and said, "You must have shown me real loyalty down in the chamber, Harry. Nothing else could have brought Fawkes to you." That's when I knew. It wasn't luck. It was choice. And I chose Hogwarts. I chose to stand. Then the door burst open. Lucius Malfoy. Looking like he'd bitten something sour and liked the taste. And behind him, Dobby. Dobby the house elf. Head bowed. Eyes wide. Malfoy was angry that Dumbledore had returned. Said the school governors had signed his suspension. Dumbledore smiled and said they had, until Lucius persuaded them. Then I told him. About the diary. That he slipped it into Ginny's cauldron at Flourish and Blots. He denied it, of course. But his eyes flashed. He turned to leave. And that's when I had an idea. I grabbed the diary, wrapped it in an old sock, and handed it to Malfoy. He snatched it, pulled out the book, and threw the sock aside. Dobby caught it. His eyes widened. He clutched it like treasure. Master has given Dobby a sock. And just like that, Dobby was free. Malfoy turned on me. Wand out. Rage boiling behind his teeth. But Dobby stopped him. A single flick of his fingers, and Lucius flew backward, robe snapping behind him like angry sails. He left without another word. Dobby turned to me. Harry Potter has set Dobby free. Dobby is free. Then he disappeared. I hope he finds somewhere to be happy. Classes are back. Everyone who was petrified has been revived. Colin's running around with his camera again. Justin told me he's sorry for thinking the worst. Hermione's voice hasn't stopped since she woke up. Ron can't stop smiling when she talks. Hagrid came back too. The cheering when he walked into the Great Hall was louder than the Quidditch Cup. There's only one chapter left now. And it feels different than last year. Not like the end of something, but the middle of something bigger. I think Voldemort is still out there. And I think he's not done with me. But I'm not done either. June 30th, on the train, watching the fields blur by. We're leaving again. The train hums under us, steady and warm. Outside the window, the countryside rolls past like it's been waiting for us all year, trees waving softly, sky cracked open and full of summer. Ron is asleep. Hermione's rereading her notes, even though exams were cancelled. Hedwig is tucked in her cage, dozing. And I'm just here. Thinking. This year was darker. Heavier. Last year, I learned I was a wizard. I found Hogwarts. The smell of roast chicken and lemon tart. Everyone cheered. Dumbledore gave a speech. Lockhart's memory loss was explained as an unfortunate accident involving a faulty wand, and no one looked too upset about it. Hagrid was there. Ginny too. The hall felt full again. Whole. Before we left, Dumbledore pulled me aside. He said, "You've shown us that even the youngest among us can do the greatest good, Harry. But never forget, what you did was not just courage. It was choice. It is our choices, far more than our abilities, that show who we truly are." I think about that a lot. About what I could have done. What I did do. And what I'll have to do someday. Because Voldemort isn't gone. I saw what he left behind. I heard his voice. And I don't think he's finished with me. But I'm not finished either. The train is slowing. King's Cross is coming into view. And for the first time, I'm not afraid of going home. Because I know where I belong. Not just in Gryffindor. Not just in the castle. But in this story. I'm part of it now. Whether I want to be or not. But I do want to be. Because when the darkness comes back, and it will, I want to be ready. July 3rd, back at Privet Drive, the bedroom, not the cupboard. Progress. It's strange being back here. The streets are the same. The houses are square and quiet and all the same shade of pretending. Uncle Vernon still grunts when he sees me. Aunt Petunia still acts like I'm radioactive. Dudley flinches every time I reach into my pocket, like I might hex him. I haven't. But I might. Just once. This morning, I sat by the window with Hedwig, and I started writing. Just to see if I could put it all into words, what's happened. And now it's filling up the page like it's been waiting. So here it is. 2 years at Hogwarts. Year 1 was the beginning. The first time I felt like I existed. Like I was allowed to take up space. I was the boy under the stairs. And then I was the boy who lived. And then, somehow, I became me. I met Ron. And Hermione. Made my first real friends. Flew for the first time. Fought a troll. Discovered the Sorcerer's Stone. Faced Voldemort. Well, what was left of him? I thought that was the end of it. Year 2 was something else. Darker. A voice in the walls. A diary that wrote back. A chamber no one believed was real. I watched students freeze in place. I saw Hermione turn to stone. I followed spiders into a forest that crawled. And I found out I can speak Parseltongue. I learned that Voldemort doesn't need a body to be dangerous. Just a name. A memory. A piece of himself buried in the wrong hands. I fought a basilisk. And lived. But I've also learned that living isn't just about not dying. It's about choosing. Choosing who I trust. Who I believe. What kind of wizard I want to become. And now, I'm here again. Back in a house where no one speaks to me unless they have to. But I'm not who I was. I know what friendship feels like. I know what home feels like. And I know I'll be back. But something's coming. I can feel it, just on the edge of things. Like storm clouds that haven't gathered yet, but the wind already knows. There was a name I overheard at the very end of term. A name that made McGonagall's face tighten. Sirius Black. He escaped from somewhere no one escapes from. Azkaban. And somehow, Dumbledore knows what it means. He didn't say it, not directly. But his eyes were different. Worried. Older. I don't know who Sirius Black is. But I have a feeling I will soon. And I don't think Voldemort's gone. Not really. There's something still tying him to me. Something I haven't seen yet. But it's waiting. And when I get back to Hogwarts, I'll be ready. Because I've survived a lot. And I'm just getting started. July 31st, the worst birthday again. But also, maybe not. It's funny how every year seems to start with a bang. Last year it was bars on my window. This year, I put someone in the air. I didn't mean to. Not really. Aunt Marge came to visit. She smells like boiled beef and cheap cologne. Talks like her voice is trying to break windows. She hates kids. She hates me. Uncle Vernon said if I kept my head down and didn't mention the M-word, they'd sign my Hogsmeade permission form. So I did. I said nothing. I sat still. I smiled when she called Mum a mistake and Dad a drunken layabouts. I swallowed it like poison and thought of Quidditch plays to stay calm. But then she said, "If you ask me, it's all in the blood. If there's something wrong with the bitch, there'll be something wrong with the pup." And that was it. My hands clenched. The air changed. And she started to rise. Slowly. Like a balloon filling with cruelty. Her buttons popped. Her feet left the floor. And she floated up, up, into the ceiling. I ran. Grabbed my trunk, Hedwig, my wand, everything I could carry. I didn't look back. The front door slammed behind me like the closing of a chapter. I walked. No idea where. Just walked. The night was heavy. Like it knew I was alone. Then I saw it. Across the street. Between two street lamps. A dog. Huge. Black. Watching me. Its eyes didn't blink. I blinked. And it vanished. I tripped over my trunk. Wand out, heart pounding. And then, bang. A purple triple-decker bus screeched into view out of nowhere. Welcome to the night bus, emergency transport for the stranded witch or wizard. Stan Shunpike. Spots. Ear-piercing accent. Called me Neville for half the ride until I gave him my real name. He didn't even flinch. They took me all the way to the leaky cauldron. Fudge was waiting. The Minister for Magic himself. Not angry. Not even surprised. said I wouldn't be expelled, that Aunt Marge had been deflated, that everything would be handled. I asked why. Why wasn't I in trouble? He dodged the question, said I was lucky, said I should stay in Diagon Alley until school. I think he's scared. Not of me. Of something bigger. Later that night, I heard them talking in the hallway outside my room. Just 2 words. But they cut through the walls like cold air. Sirius Black. Something's happening. Something bad. And I'm part of it. Again. But the room upstairs at the Leaky Cauldron has a bed. A window. Hedwig. A lock on the door that I own. And I have my wand under the pillow. That's something. That's enough, for now. August 15th, Diagon Alley feels safer than it should. It's been nearly 2 weeks since I left the Dursleys. No yelling. No cupboard. No chores. Just me, a few gold coins, and a room above a pub that never really sleeps. The Leaky Cauldron buzzes all day, clinking glasses, flue flashes, someone trying to turn a hat into a rabbit in the corner, and failing. But my favorite time is early morning. Before the fire is lit. When the chairs are still upside down on the tables and the air smells like sleep and magic dust. I wake up before anyone. Feed Hedwig. Walk Diagon Alley. And for a while, I feel normal. I finished all my homework, even divination. I wrote a whole scroll about predicting death using tea leaves. I don't believe a word of it, but I drew a nice grim-shaped blob in the corner and said it meant impending misfortune. Seems accurate. I saw Ron yesterday. He ran through the pub like someone had lit his robes on fire and hugged me hard enough to crack my spine. Then came Hermione, arms full of books and a cat that looked like it had fought in a war. She called him Crookshanks. He immediately tried to attack Ron's rat, Scabbers. That went badly. We spent the day shopping. New books from Flourish and Blots. One of mine, The Monster Book of Monsters, tried to eat me. I had to wrestle it shut and tie it with a belt. Hagrid laughed. Turns out it's required reading for his new Care of Magical Creatures class. I'm nervous for that. He means well, but he once gave me a rock cake so hard it chipped my tooth. We passed quality Quidditch supplies too. There's a firebolt in the window. Top of the line. No handle polish, no magical marketing gimmicks. Just power. Quiet and sleek and fast enough to outfly the wind. I want it more than I want anything. I don't even ask how much it costs. I just stare. But the weirdest part came after dinner. Mr. Weasley pulled me aside. His face was tight, like he'd chewed a lemon and forgot to spit it out. "Harry," he said. "You must promise me something. Don't go looking for Sirius Black." I nodded. He looked at me like he didn't believe me. Like he wouldn't believe himself if he were me. "He's not just dangerous. He's after you." I said I wouldn't. I think I meant it. But when people tell me not to go near something, that's usually when the trouble finds me anyway. Not because I chase it. Because it always seems to know where I am. I'm packed now. Tomorrow we leave for the train. The black dog hasn't come back. But I still feel it. Not on the street. Not in the alley. But near. Like the future is watching me through a crack in the wall. And something inside it is hungry. September 1st, the sky cracked open on the train. We made it to the station. Barely. Mr. Weasley and Mrs. Weasley argued all morning. He kept trying to tell me something and she kept interrupting. Like there was a secret floating between them, and they were trying to smother it with toast. Ron's owl, Pig, escaped his cage. Crookshanks nearly caught him. Hermione was panicking. I tried to help, but my hand slipped on a cauldron and I spilled ink all over my robes. A normal morning. The Hogwarts Express was already hissing steam when we boarded. We found an empty compartment with someone already inside. A man, asleep. Cloaked. Leaning against the window like he'd been there for centuries. His suitcase said Professor R.J. Lupin. We sat quietly. Ron tried Bertie Bott's beans and got tripe. Hermione read arithmancy for the advanced mind. I just watched the rain blur the windows and tried to feel safe. I should have known. The train stopped. Just like that. No warning. No announcement. The lamps flickered. And then, darkness. Not nighttime. The kind of dark that presses against your chest and dares you to breathe. The air turned cold. Our breath fogged the glass. Frost bloomed like spiderwebs across the window. And something stepped on board. We heard it before we saw it. Not footsteps. Just presence. Then the door slid open. And it was there. A Dementor. Tall. Hooded. Gliding. No feet. No face. Just decay and drowning and the slow collapse of everything warm. It turned toward me. And I heard. Not Harry. Please, not Harry. A woman's voice. Take me instead, kill me if you have to, but not Harry. Then a scream. My mother. And then. Nothing. I woke up on the floor. Lupin crouched over me, calm and focused. He gave me chocolate. Said it helps. I didn't believe him at first. But I took a bite. Warmth returned like breath under a blanket. Slowly. Cautiously. Ron and Hermione were pale. Everyone else in the carriage was fine. Only I had fainted. Lupin didn't say anything else. Just sat down. Pulled his cloak tighter. But I noticed the way he looked at me. Like he knew. Not just what happened, but why. I couldn't sleep after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the scream again. Not loud. Just final. And I realized something. I've never actually heard her voice before. Not in a dream. Not in a memory. Just that one moment. Carried by something that wants to feed on the worst thing I've ever known. Welcome back to Hogwarts. The castle looked the same. But the sky didn't. It felt like the stars had been pushed farther away. And the cold came with us. September 20th, Hogwarts feels colder this year, and it's not the weather. The castle looks the same, but it doesn't feel the same. The staircases still shift. The ghosts still drift through walls like half-finished sentences. But there's something different in the air. The Dementors are stationed at the gates. You can feel them before you see them, like walking into a room where someone just cried. Even the portraits are quieter this year. Classes started a week ago. Hermione somehow signed up for everything. Even classes that happen at the same time. She won't explain how. She just smiles. Crookshank sits on her bag like a judgmental pumpkin and hisses whenever Ron gets near. Ron is convinced Crookshanks is trying to murder Scabbers. I'm not sure he's wrong. But the first time I felt something real this year was Professor Lupin's lesson. He brought us to a wardrobe. Inside was a boggart, a creature that becomes whatever you fear most. Neville went first. He's turned into Snape. With a swish of his wand and a shout of ridiculous. Snape ended up in his grandmother's clothes. Complete with vulture hat. We laughed so hard we forgot we were scared. Mine? I didn't even make it to the front. Lupin stepped in before it reached me. And it turned into a Dementor. Even in disguise, it froze the room. Afterward, Lupin told me he wanted to spare me the embarrassment. But I wonder if he knew something more. Quidditch started too. Oliver Wood is training us like we're entering the Tri-Wizard tournament. But I can't stop thinking about that voice on the train. My mum. Her scream. It echoes. And it's always cold afterward. But something else happened today. Something brilliant. Fred and George gave me a map. Not just a map, a magic one. It shows every hallway, every room, every person in Hogwarts, even the hidden passages. It's enchanted with a spell. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. And when you're done, mischief managed. They called it the Marauder's Map. Said it belonged to 4 mysterious students years ago: Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. Whoever they were legends. I used the map today. Snuck into Hogsmeade. And that's where I heard it. In the back of the 3 broomsticks. A conversation I was not supposed to hear. Sirius Black wasn't just some mad escaped prisoner. He was my father's best friend. My godfather. And the one who betrayed them. He told Voldemort where they were hiding. Led him straight to them. And when they died, Sirius laughed. The Ministry caught him in the wreckage, surrounded by the remains of another friend, Peter Pettigrew. They said there wasn't enough left of Pettigrew to bury. And Black? He was just standing there, laughing. I didn't feel anything at first. Then I felt everything. Rage. Cold. Shame for wanting a family with him in it. I didn't even realize I'd walked all the way back to the castle alone. I'm writing this now under the covers. The map is open beside me. Names flickering gently in the dark. I keep staring at one of them. Sirius Black. And wondering what kind of monster could laugh at the end of the world. But maybe I'll get the chance to ask him. Because if he's out there, really out there, I'm going to find him. October 14th, some weeks feel like one long night. It's raining again. Not the good kind. Not the soft, sleepy kind that taps on the windows and hushes the world. This is sideways rain, sharp and cold, like the castle itself is flinching. The stones are slick, and the staircases seem to move slower in protest. Classes keep going, but I'm somewhere else. I'm still in that pub in Hogsmeade, hearing Sirius Black's name in that low voice. Hearing the words Godfather, Traitor, Murderer roll out like they mean nothing. I keep thinking back to all the times I wondered what my parents were like, who their friends were. What it meant to be chosen as someone's family. And now, knowing that one of those friends gave them away for nothing, it burns behind my ribs. But I don't tell Ron or Hermione. I keep it tucked inside, like a splinter too deep to dig out. Lupin noticed, though. He always seems to know when someone's hiding pain. Like he recognizes it by the shape it makes in your shoulders. He pulled me aside after class and asked if I'd like to learn how to fight Dementors. I said yes before I could even breathe the thought. We meet in the empty defense classroom after dinner. The desks pushed back, the lamps low. There's a faint smell of old chalk and candle smoke. Lupin's wand glows gently as he shows me the shape of the charm. Expecto Patronum. He says it's not just about saying the words. It's about summoning something stronger than fear. A memory. A feeling so bright that the Dementors can't touch it. I try. And fail. Over and over. Every time the Boggart Dementor glides out of the trunk, I hear her again. My mother's voice. That last scream. I collapse on the floor, shivering. Lupin helps me up without a word. He always brings chocolate. Always waits for me to stop shaking. I don't know if I'll ever get it right. But I want to. Meanwhile, everything else is falling apart. Ron and Hermione are still fighting. About Crookshanks, about Scabbers, about trust. Hermione swears her cat didn't eat Ron's rat, but Scabbers is gone. Vanished. Ron's furious. Hermione's quiet and distant. And I'm in the middle again. I miss when the worst thing we argued about was homework. And then there's Buckbeak. What happened with Malfoy should have been nothing, just one more moment where he overreacts and plays the victim. But Lucius Malfoy pushed for a hearing. A trial. Like Buckbeak is a criminal instead of a magical creature that got spooked. Hagrid's been a wreck. I visited him the night he got the letter. His cabin was full of tea and tension. His hands were shaking so badly he spilled half the kettle. Beaky don't deserve this, he said. He's a good creature, Harry. Just misunderstood. I didn't know what to say. Because he's right. But right doesn't matter when people like Lucius Malfoy decide what happens. The castle feels colder every night. And I can't help but think. While we're all arguing about rats and cats and hippogriffs, something worse is moving closer. And no one sees it yet. But I do. I feel it in my dreams. I feel it when I walk past the windows and catch my own reflection looking back a second too long. Something's coming. And this time, it has a face. March 18th, I don't know who to trust anymore, except maybe the sky. Ron is gone. I mean, not gone forever. He's in the hospital wing now, bandaged and pale, sleeping like someone who just barely made it back through the door. But for a while, we didn't know. It started with a noise. Something frantic. I remember Ron shouting, the sound of paws scraping stone, and then he was just gone. Dragged. Pulled through the roots of the whomping willow like a thread yanked loose from the world. Hermione and I didn't even think. We just ran. The tunnel beneath the tree was damp and narrow, carved by time and secrets. The walls breathed cold, and the silence between our footsteps felt too loud. It led us to the Shrieking Shack. I used to think the shack's name was about ghosts or curses. But now I think it's about memory. Because that place holds screams, and not all of them. Neither did I. Not at first. But then Professor Lupin appeared. He didn't attack Sirius. He didn't defend us. He hugged him. Like a friend who had finally come back from war. And that's when everything really started to split open. Lupin told us the truth. Slowly. Carefully. Like every word was glass. He said he, Sirius, Peter, and my dad, James, were the marauders. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. Lupin is a werewolf. Sirius is an animagus, a dog. Peter too. A rat. They made the map. They broke the rules. They grew up together. And one of them betrayed the rest. I didn't want to believe it. Not just because it was too much, too fast, but because part of me wanted Sirius to be the monster they said he was. Because if he wasn't, that meant someone else was. And that person had been sleeping in Ron's bed for years. We forced him to show us. Lupin grabbed Scabbers. Sirius helped. They said the spell. And then, there he was. Not a rat. A man. Short. Shaking. Hair like straw, eyes like knives that had rusted. Peter Pettigrew. He begged. He cried. He called me Harry. Harry, I was your parents' friend. I didn't care. I wanted to hurt him. Hermione held my wrist. I think she knew I might not stop. Sirius wanted to kill him. So did Lupin. But I said no. Not because he didn't deserve it. But because my dad would have wanted justice. Not murder. We tied him up. Started walking him back to the castle. It was over. Or at least, we thought it was. Until the moon rose. And Lupin, our kind, tired, brilliant teacher, transformed. No potion. No control. Just the wolf. And all of us, alone in the woods. Peter escaped in the chaos. Ron collapsed again. And Sirius. He almost didn't make it. Now he's in the hospital wing too. They say he'll be sent back to Azkaban soon. Because we have no proof. Peter's gone. And the truth vanished with him. I keep replaying it. What we saw. What we could have stopped. How close I came to knowing what it feels like to have family. And how fast it slipped through my fingers. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I know I'm not going to let that man disappear again. Not the way he already did for 12 years. June 6th, I've lived the same hour twice, and I still don't understand how. It began with silence. The kind that sits in your bones. They took Sirius. Dragged him from the hospital wing in chains. No one listened. No one asked questions. The Dementors waited in the tower, cloaks fluttering like dead sails. They were ready to do what they do best, suck the soul straight from his body. No trial. No wand. Just cold. Even Dumbledore said there was nothing he could do. At least, not directly. But he looked at Hermione. And Hermione looked at me. And then she reached into her robes and pulled out time. A thin gold chain. A tiny hourglass. The thing she's been hiding all year. A time turner. Dumbledore told her something strange. He said, "You must not be seen. You and Harry both know the importance of being unseen." And then we turned it. Once. Twice. 3 times. The world tilted. The light bent. And suddenly we were behind ourselves. Hours earlier. Watching the sun sink again as if it hadn't already set. We didn't speak much. Just moved. Quiet as shadows. Through the grass, across the edge of the forbidden forest, careful not to disturb the air. We waited. And when the time was right, we freed Buckbeak. The hippogriff soared with us on his back, wind screaming in our ears. It was terrifying. It was perfect. We circled the tower. And we saw them, Sirius and the Dementors. He was already falling to the ground, twitching. The hooded things were closing in. About to take what was left of him. Hermione gripped my shoulder. "Now, Harry," she whispered. "Now. Cast it." But I couldn't. I froze. Because I remembered what I'd seen the first time. A stag. A blinding, silver stag galloping out of the dark, scattering the Dementors like smoke. I thought, my dad did it. I was sure of it. But now, as we stood behind the trees, no one came. There was no stag. There was just me. Watching Sirius fall. Watching myself collapse. And realizing. It was me. It had been me all along. I stepped forward. Raised my wand. And shouted it with everything I had. "Expecto Patronum!" And the stag came again. Strong. Beautiful. Bright enough to light up the whole forest. It wasn't my father. It was his magic, his memory, flowing through me. And for a moment, he was there. I felt him. In the way the stag moved. In the way it stood between me and the dark. We saved Sirius. Snuck him out of the tower, onto Buckbeak's back. He turned to me before he flew. Put a hand on my shoulder. Said he was proud. Said I was just like James. He said he'd write. I hope he does. Even if he's on the run, even if I never see him again, I hope he knows I believed him. That I saw the truth, even when no one else did. Time turned forward again. No one noticed the missing hippogriff. Or the lock picked on Sirius's door. Or the boy with mud on his shoes staring at the sky, hoping it remembers how this hour used to end. Sometimes I think about that stag. How it knew the path. How it didn't hesitate. How it felt like a part of me I didn't know existed. And now, I wonder what else I might find inside me if I keep looking. June 11th, the train feels slower when you don't want to leave. The Hogwarts Express always sounds the same. That low, steady hum of wheels on tracks. The occasional whistle like it's dreaming. But this time, the compartments feel a little too big. A little too empty. Ron's asleep, finally. His leg is still bandaged from when the dog dragged him off, but he's been smiling again, in his awkward, lopsided way. Hermione's rereading one of her books, though I can tell she's not really reading. She keeps glancing at me, like she wants to say something but isn't sure if now's the right time. It never is. And it always is. We haven't told anyone about the time turner. Or the Patronus. Or the stag. Not really. Only Dumbledore knows. He said something strange after the rescue, about how when 2 lives are saved in one night, it means more than magic can measure. I don't know what that means yet. But I think I will. Lupin left. Quietly. He said he couldn't risk staying, too many parents would complain about a werewolf teaching their children. I tried to tell him they were wrong, that he was the best defense teacher we've ever had. He just smiled, soft and tired. You're more like your father than you know, Harry. Not just in how you fly, but in what you choose. He gave me the Marauder's map back before he left. Said it belonged with someone who needed it. It still smells like parchment and trouble. And home. Sirius wrote to me. He sent a letter. Delivered by a huge, shaggy black owl, and inside it, a scrap of parchment with his handwriting. Messy. Confident. He said thank you. Said I saved more than his life. He also gave me permission to live with him. If I ever wanted to. If things with the Dursleys got worse. I think I reread that line 100 times. Of course, the Ministry won't allow it, not until his name is cleared. But just knowing I have someone out there, that I'm not alone. It changes everything. There's something else. I didn't tell anyone this. But when I cast that Patronus, I felt something shift. Like a lock turning. Like some door in me that had always been closed finally opened. I don't think I'm the same anymore. Not because of what happened. But because of what I chose to do. The train is slowing now. We're nearly back to London. Back to the Dursleys. Back to number 4, Privet Drive. But this time, I'm not scared. This time, I have names. Sirius. Remus. My father's friends. People who knew me before I even existed. People who believe in me, even when I don't fully believe in myself. The sky is soft through the window. The summer is waiting. And somewhere out there, Voldemort is waiting, too. But I'm ready. More than I've ever been. June 14th, I used to count summers by how many days I'd have to stay in the cupboard. Now I count them by how many nights I dream of flying. It's strange, looking back. 3 years ago, I didn't know who I was. Not really. I knew I was different, stranger than the other kids, quieter, faster at noticing things I wasn't supposed to notice. I knew how to hide bruises, how to cook for people who never said thank you, how to shrink inside myself until I nearly disappeared. But I didn't know I was a wizard. Didn't know what it meant to belong somewhere. Didn't know magic had a name, and that name was mine. First year, I was mostly afraid. Afraid of being sorted wrong. Afraid of letting people down. Afraid of hearing my parents' names in whispers I didn't understand. I made my first real friends. I faced a mountain troll. I looked into a mirror that showed me what I miss most in the world. And by the end, I faced Voldemort with nothing but a chessboard and courage I didn't know I had. That was the year I learned how to choose bravery, even when it hurt. Second year was darker. The walls whispered. Blood appeared. People froze like statues in the corridors. And they said it was me. They looked at me like I was the danger. The heir. The enemy. But I wasn't. I was the boy who could talk to snakes. The boy who followed the spiders. The boy who opened the Chamber of Secrets, not to unleash a monster, but to end one. I held a sword in my hand and faced a basilisk with no one beside me but a ghost and a phoenix. That was the year I learned what it means to stand alone, and win anyway. Third year wasn't about facing evil. It was about facing the truth. I met the man they said betrayed my parents. Then I learned he didn't. I learned my father had friends who'd risk everything for him, even after death. I learned I had family I never knew about. But I also learned how easily the world believes lies, how hard it is to prove the truth when it's buried beneath a name. I cast a Patronus, one strong enough to drive back 100 Dementors. And I saw its shape. A stag. My father's animagus form. That was the year I realized I carry more than his name. I carry his light. 3 years. 3 chances to be broken, and I wasn't. Not fully. I still cry sometimes, but quieter now. The dreams come and go. The darkness, too. But I'm still here. And I think I'm ready for what's next. Because I know more now. About who I am. About who they were. About what's worth fighting for. And maybe most importantly, what's worth protecting. Even if it's just a quiet moment, a letter from a godfather, or the smile of a friend. Magic isn't always in spells. Sometimes it's just still being here. And just like that, the candle burns low. We've reached the end of part 1. 3 years. 3 chapters of a life shaped by letters, spells, shadows, and light. We began in the cupboard, where magic was just a whisper behind a locked door. We met friends, found ghosts in mirrors, and stepped through chambers carved from legend. We rode a hippogriff under moonlight, rewound time with trembling fingers, and cast a Patronus so bright it silenced the dark. But this is only the beginning. If you'd like us to open the diary again, to return for year 4, the fire and the maze, leave a comment below. Let us know you're still listening. Let us know you're still dreaming. Because year 4 is where the world changes. Where the goblet burns blue. Where the graveyard waits. Where Harry learns that even in a crowd, he can feel completely alone. And if you made it this far, here's something for you. A riddle. A secret. A test for true dreamers of Hogwarts. Which spell was invented by a Hogwarts student in the 18th century, used only once in the books, and can silence anything, even a ghost mid-sentence? If you know the answer, whisper it in the comments. And maybe, just maybe, we'll reveal the truth when the next story begins. For now, rest easy. The castle remembers you. The candle's almost out. And the diary will be here when you return. Good night.